for now and for future generations.
Thank you for joining us on TV 18.
Thank you, Catil.
When Darcy needs technical expertise, this is the person that she goes to, Jason Alseth. Welcome to the show today.
Oh, thank you very much.
Jason, Darcy and I were talking about the many jobs that you perform for UCR, but tell us a little bit about your position as the Technical Programs Director.
Well, as the Technical Programs Director, I work mostly with technical types of programs, monitoring projects, and work with local, state, federal governments to work with all of our different types of programs relating to water quality and any types of pollutants that can get into the water. It's my job to try to figure out how we can keep it out.
So soil erosion that's one of your pet peeves, I bet, isn't it?
Well, sediment-laden water coming off of construction sites, making way for housing developments or commercial strip malls, things like that, have a serious potential for depositing sediment-laden water into our surface waters. And Lake Lanier being our largest surface water in the Chattahoochee Basin, then that is a serious threat towards filling up the lake with sediments, having a lot of effect on fish and fishing resources through the lake, and it's a serious problem and probably the largest problem that we face.
Your t-shirt, of course, an Upper Chattahoochee Riverkeeper t-shirt that says "Keeping Watch Over Our Waters," which is what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's another part of what we do is I run our hotline program. So any citizen or any person in our watershed that sees any types of pollutants, whether it be sediment or oil or sewage that's going into our waterways, we have a hotline program that they can call and report it, and then we can help them work to report to the proper citizens. We also, or proper governments, and we also work with these governments to make sure that the problems are resolved.
Have you noticed in the last few years, Darcy and I were talking about the fact that the drought has called so much attention to Lake Lanier, good in some ways, bad in some other ways, but have you noticed our companies and the industries that we're talking about where sometimes their runoff comes into the lake, are they working with you better now than they have in the past, or does that continue to be a difficult process?
Well, it's getting better, and it has been getting better before the drought and now after the drought. And especially now with the economy the way it is, we're not seeing as much development. So the development that we do see, we're able to spend a lot more time and resources on focusing on these things and making sure that they're not having a negative impact on our environment and our water resources. But I think it is progressively getting better. People are becoming more aware that this is a serious problem and it has to be addressed. You
mentioned the hotline phone number that you have, but also I'm aware of a program you all have called Get the Dirt Out. Tell me about that.
Get the Dirt Out focuses on the sedimentation problem coming off of construction sites, and this program is unique in that we focus on citizens throughout the watershed. We try to educate citizens through typically a 2-hour class that they can come to. We tell them what to look for, all the different best management practices on construction sites like silt fences and construction exits and things, to where they know what is a problem, and if they see a problem, then they can go through, report to the proper government agencies and make sure that it gets resolved to keep the sediment on that construction site and keep it out of the lake here.
You talk about certainly big construction companies building. We think typically about big developments that are taking place, but even if you're just working in your own yard at home, I know that I have a bank beside my house and I see a lot of stuff happen just with that one little bank.
Yeah, typically the regulations get triggered when you disturb an acre or more.
Okay.
So any person that disturbs an acre or more, you're covered by local, state, and federal laws that say that you have to implement what's called best management practices, like these silt fences and vegetative types of practices, to make sure that when it does rain, that the water's running off of that land is clean and it's not putting all this muddy water into our lakes and our rivers.
And if someone has some questions for you about what they need to do, how can they get in touch with you?
You can go to our website, chattahoochee.org. All of our contact information is on our website, and we are a huge educational type of agency or organization, so we always like to talk to people and try to make sure there's many educated people out there as possible, so there are enough eyes and ears to make sure that things aren't going on unseen.
What is the future of your position and the work that you do at Upper Chattahoochee?
Well, we're always looking for ways that we can improve our water quality through education, advocacy, and things like that. So Nobody can predict the future, but I can guarantee you that everybody here is going to be working as hard as we possibly can to make sure that there's enough clean water to sustain our future generations, and enough water so that my kids will be able to enjoy the same things I'm able to enjoy out here.
Well, it certainly is beautiful out here today. I think we heard a fish jump just a few moments ago as we were talking. Certainly with the boats in the background, I think anyone that comes out here on the lake has to appreciate what we have before us.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful fishery and a wonderful natural resource.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
We've changed our position just a little bit here on Lake Lanier, actually in an area of the lake about 57 feet deep, but I'm noticing how clear the water is, and joining me now to talk about keeping the water clean and clear is Brian Wiley, the Environmental Monitoring Coordinator for the City of Gainesville. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Catil.
Hey, it's great to see you. You and I are together. Well, we get together every couple years to talk about the lake.
We do.
And the last time we were together, Brian, there was more, I guess, dirt and sand to talk about than there was actually water.
Yeah, we have. We've been through a drought the last several years, but we've been blessed enough that we've got a lot of water in our streams and a lot of water in our main drinking water supply. So things have changed quite a bit since last time.
They really have. And as we come out here today in July, the lake is just, I understand, about 5 feet down.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're getting very close to full pool right now, which is 1071. So things are going really well.
The City of Gainesville spends a lot of time working and talking about stormwater and pollution, just like when I talked earlier with Jason and Darcy from UCR. This is something that we're very concerned about, isn't it?
Right, it is. And, you know, there's a couple of issues with stormwater. We can kind of go into that now if you want to, about what actually is stormwater. The idea is the water that falls out of the sky is during a rain event. The unfortunate thing that we run into, though, is as it mixes what's on the ground or on a rooftop or any paved surfaces, it mixes with other pollutants and contaminants that run into our streams or into storm drains or catch basins and those kind of things.
You mentioned the word catch basin. What is a catch basin?
Right. A catch basin pretty much is and most people see it as a large hole. That's going to be near a large industry or maybe a huge subdivision, those kind of things. But what happens is that water runs into that basin, and as it starts to sit, it starts to settle out. And those large particles kind of settle towards the bottom of that basin and allows that hopefully cleaner or better water to be able to release and go into our streams and into Lake Lanier.
Tell me the difference between so much of the water and the runoff that you're talking about I see going into the sewers and the storm drains. Tell us what the difference is.
Right. Well, for us in our particular area, storm drains and sewer systems are not connected. And that's one of the things that we focus so much on with our public education program, is the importance that people realize that those are not combined. There are words of combined sewer, which will contain rainwater and sewer. For our particular case, we just don't have the capacity to be able to treat rainwater and wastewater together. So those storm drains or those holes in the side of the road go directly to our streams or to a catch basin and open up to larger drinking water or larger supply. Of course, sanitary sewer, completely different thing. It's a closed system. So the water that comes from our homes and from our facilities and our businesses comes back to a plant to be treated and ultimately put back into another drinking water supply for us to continue to use as we have for the last several years now.
What kinds of pollutants are we actually talking about going into our system?
Right. With rainwater, the biggest thing we run into is fuel sheens. We see the rainbow color on the side of the pavement where cars have leaked any type of fuels, whether it's unleaded fuel or diesel fuel or kerosene, are some of the things we run into. Also the spilling of antifreeze, hydraulic fluid. When people change their oil out of their cars, there are certain places it has to go. We need to clean that substance up in a dry clean method and be able to dispose of it properly. The only thing we do run into is when it rains and we see that rainbow color, it doesn't go away. It ends up down into our drinking water supply.
And it's not pretty. We think it's pretty, but it's not pretty, is it?
No, it's not. You know, our children like to look at it and they see that pretty rainbow because they think it looks nice, but it's not a thing that we want to see into our parking lots and our roadways and our streams.